That one did not draw. It went perfectly straight, unfortunately.
Hey guys, welcome to Caddie Conversations. The premise of this podcast is to interview people in different industries to understand more about their industry and what makes them so successful in it. So today we have Nate Boyer, and I'll pass it over to him. I actually didn't even see where you landed.
Wait, you didn't see where it finished?
No!
After all that? Golly.
I was focused on filming the subject.
Well, the subject crushed it.
All right. Nate, can you give us a rundown of who you are? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I'm even through 3, first of all. Yeah, I spent time in the military. I spent time playing sports. Before that, I was drifting for the first 4 or 5 years of my life, trying to figure it out. And now I'm drifting again in the last 4 or 5 years or 8 years or whatever it is. But yeah, I co-founded an organization called MVP that helps drifters like me. It stands for Merging Vets and Players. And we bring together combat vets and former professional athletes and help them find purpose and identity when they lose a uniform. And I'm making films right now, or trying to. So yeah, that's kind of some of the things I'm doing. Water has to do with Water Boys, another organization I'm attached to that focuses on bringing clean water to East Africa, drilling some wells out there. So kind of all over the place, but based here in Austin. And yeah, golf's a good metaphor for life. We'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Hitting a cut?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a smart play, but can you hit a cut?
I can. Will I? That is the question of the day. It cut a little bit. I mean, I ain't mad about it. I ain't mad about it at all.
We're getting up close and personal.
Oh boy.
What do we think? What are we thinking here?
What are we thinking of what?
How far are we?
We're about 75 yards to the stick.
What are we taking?
A 58.
How close are we putting it?
That's not up to me, unfortunately. I'm going to try to hit it about 70 yards, but I don't know. I'm not very good at this part of the game. I'm not very good at most parts of the game. I'm going to go a little right of the stick, or at least think I'm going to go a little right of the stick.
Very nice.
I was a little too far out of the stick, but I will take that. And I hit it farther than 70. I hit it 75 or 6. Still, whatever. You got it.
Sorry. All right. That's officially tracking you.
Okay. Unfortunate for the camera.
If this goes in, this is going to be great content.
I haven't missed a putt yet. I'm just saying. I'm due. This is the toughest one I've had, to be fair. It's going to be quick. Not quite high enough, not quite hard enough.
He babied it.
Cautious.
Babied it.
Yeah, because this thing is freaking fast.
All right, Nate. So obviously you are very well accoladed and you've done a lot in your life. Let's start back when you actually just enlisted into the military and became a Green Beret. Was that always your intention? Can you give us some background on what actually led you to that point, and maybe about your childhood or anything else you want to add that is pretty important to the rest of your story?
So I didn't think about joining the military seriously growing up at all. I did meet with a recruiter when I was a senior in high school, but it was really just a mess with my parents. I was 20 years old when 9/11 happened, so that kind of got me thinking about it a little bit, but really not till I was 23 did I seriously consider it. And it was a mix of things. Partially, all my friends were graduating high school, starting their lives, they had their careers and plans and ambitions, and I had a lot of interest in things, but I didn't really apply myself, and I didn't really know what I was into fully. I just was kind of all over the place. And Um, and with that, I kind of hit the road and I started doing like backpacking trips. I'd save my money up and just go, sleep on a hammock or sleep on the trains and just kind of bum around the world. And those travels took me to the Darfur. It's a region between Sudan and Chad, where I did a couple months of relief work, and it really changed my life just because I I'd never in my life been fully of service to someone else in that way that absolutely needed it, and be a part of that mission of fighting for those that can't fight for themselves stuck with me. And that last week when I was there, I got sick. I got malaria, and this family took care of me, and they didn't ask for anything. They didn't want anything, and they put this radio next to the cot I was sleeping on, and the Second Battle of Fallujah was going on at that time. So I'm listening to these Marines mostly that were over there fighting for these people, and I just thought when I come home I'm gonna join the military. And what led me to the special forces, to the Green Berets, was the motto "De oppresso libera," which meant to free the oppressed. And so that kind of spoke to me like nothing else did, because it felt like I'd have a part of this humanitarian mission that I'd just been on, but also standing up for these people and fighting against those that oppress them, essentially. So that's what led me to the Green Berets.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Um, Obviously, you're one of our great friends, and we just appreciate you always being so loving. And that goes across the board. I mean, you love in your own unique way,
Okay, there you go. There you go. That's fair.
but you really are, you're a fighter on the outside, but a lover on the inside. And I think everybody could agree with that because you truly do care about people, and your story lines up with your heart and your character today. For people who don't know, what is a Green Beret?
It is an Army Special Forces soldier. It's sort of the Army's version of the Navy SEALs. A lot of people know what the Navy SEAls are.
Hmm.
A lot of it's because of the movies and and stuff like that. To be honest, um, but yeah, it's part of it. It is the one of the most elite units in the military and the Army specifically. Um, but yeah, it is a Special Forces soldier. They call us a Green Beret because that's the hat we wear on our head. We
Hmm.
wear you earn your Green Beret when you finish the Special Forces qualification course, which is like 2 years long and very tough. It's a high attrition rate. Not many make it through, and even less even want to apply because they know how much it sucks
Hmm.
to go through all that. But it's worth it. And you're on 12-man teams when you're deployed, and you're doing unconventional warfare by, with, and through host nationals. So you go to Iraq, Afghanistan, Timbuktu. It doesn't matter. You assimilate to the culture, and you often live with and fight alongside the people from that country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nate, I want to talk a little bit about how you transitioned out of being a Green Beret. How did you know that season was up, and what did you go into?
Well, first of all, I didn't fully transition out of the military when I went to college. I mean, I was in Iraq when I made the decision to not reenlist and to go to college finally. And, I was going to be an old student. I was 27, turning 28 on that deployment. And I still had one more trip to Israel later in the year. But yeah, with like a year left, I kind of said, all right, I'm gonna go to college now. And I ended up eventually transitioning into the National Guard. So I went from full-time active duty military to a college student that also was, serving part-time in the military as part of the Texas National Guard. And I walked on to the football field at UT. I never played football growing up. It was like a huge regret of mine because it was my favorite sport to watch anyway. And I just remember being in Iraq and watching games on TV, and it was like an escape, for me, football season. And so I started training there. I started preparing for that opportunity there, trying to learn how to backpedal and run routes and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, coming back here and coming to Austin, I'd never lived in Texas before. I'd only been here once. Was again a situation where I just didn't really know anybody, but I kind of poured all my energy and skills that I learned in the military into trying to play football. And I was fortunate to make the team and find a way on the field eventually. So I think it was a blessing to have a new locker room and a new mission and team, even though it was different than the military, but also still to be serving at some capacity in the military. So I wasn't completely letting go of that, because every summer I would go overseas. I went back to Afghanistan the last 2 summers before my junior and senior year, which was a very different summer internship than most college kids experience. But I wasn't a kid. I was at that point in my early 30s. So, you know.
Yeah. What made you choose football?
It was just a regret of not playing when I was younger, you know,
Mm.
and it, like I said, just being my favorite sport. And, people like Pat Tillman and so many others that, you know, that didn't serve in the military were just my heroes as a kid growing
Yeah.
up. And so I didn't want to live with the regret of not trying at least. I mean, you get cut, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to go for it.
Yeah. Were there any thoughts behind, wow, I'm this old guy going up on this football team. What is everybody going to think about me? Or
Uh,
were you really, truly just doing it for yourself and didn't care?
yeah, I wasn't too worried about what people would think about me being older. I mean, it was never weird playing football being older. At times it was weird being a college student being older, like walking
Mm.
around campus and, you know, people are just looking at you. I got a backpack on too, you know, it's like I'm not a professor. But, you know, it is what it is. I still went to frat parties and had a great time. I lived up my college experience. I did it right. You know,
Wow.
I definitely had, you know, there's plenty of sorority girls that were like, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm old enough to be a lot of things, all right? Anyway, that's enough of that. Do I have enough club? Probably not. Am I going to go back to the cart and get another one? Absolutely not. I'm just going to swing harder, right? Isn't that what we do?
Oh, that was a great swing. That just might be a hole in one.
It's not a hole in one, but it is a good shot.
It was a good shot. I mean,
I will
20 yards
take it.
short, but it was a
I
great
know,
shot.
it's still short. I knew it. I knew it. You think 20 yards?
Yeah,
you're probably
I
right.
think 15
You're
yards.
probably right. Darn it. Oh, you torched it and it did not fade at all. Wow. Hammered though. Hammered. It went right on the line and did not fade.
Beautiful shot.
Dang it.
Beautiful swing. Well executed, I must say.
Was it a beautiful swing?
Well executed.
It's probably out of bounds. But I hit it well.
So we talked about playing football in college.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about post-college. What were you thinking, and
what was you thinking?
What did your next season look like?
Yeah, I mean, football and the military ended at the same time. Essentially, I got out of the Army officially, fully, in the spring of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Signed with the Seahawks in May as an undrafted free agent, but was only up there for 5 months. So was there an off-season training camp, played in the preseason, and then got released. So, you know, went from having both those uniforms, the jersey and the camouflage, to none.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, you know, that was interesting to figure out. I was 34. Felt like I still had a lot of life left and a lot of energy and things I wanted to do, but just starting over where you feel like everybody else has had a head start for a few years is, you know, weird.
Yeah.
But there's also like an understanding of and like realization that you do have a lot of skills and intangibles that other people maybe don't because they haven't played sports at a high level or served in the military or whatever. And so it's really just like harnessing all of that and repurposing it into whatever the next thing you want to pursue is. And for me, it was filmmaking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
beyond the nonprofit stuff. But that's what I really wanted to do. So it took a little bit to kind of get going. But I did an internship, you know, an unpaid internship at 34, like
Wow.
making coffee and, you know, getting lunch and answering phone calls for a production
Wow.
company. But I learned a lot. I met some really good people. And when I directed my first movie, you know, one of those people produced it with me and helped me get Sylvester Stallone's name on it. And that's how it got made. So,
Yeah.
you know, there was a lot of value in that too.
Yeah, let's tap into that story a little bit more because I'm sure a lot of people are either in a season or they've been in a season where they can relate that it's so ungratifying, but they know that they can pursue something that they love. For you, it was filmmaking. How did you endure that process that you have no gratification within it? You're not getting money for it, there's no validity in it. You're 34 years old. Um,
Well, it's not even enduring it, because if it's
mhm.
something that you love, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. The result shouldn't matter. The pay certainly doesn't matter. If it's something that you're passionate about, then you don't have a choice. I mean, you shouldn't have a choice. That's what you should be doing. To be completely honest, at
Yeah,
some level, I understand you got to make
yeah.
money. You got to you got to pay the bills. If you got a family and kids, which I don't, so that would have changed things potentially. But if you do, like, that's the priority. Um, but even with that, if there is something that you're interested in or passionate about, you should be doing it, or at least trying to do it and learning about it and studying it. And it may not be your full-time job or your internship or whatever,
Mhm.
but if you're not doing that, it's going to be hard to, I think, feel joy and accomplishment, even in the mundane tasks, because you're not working towards what you actually want to be.
Mhm.
So,
So did you know that you wanted to be a filmmaker when you were 34 years old, or did it just interest you so that's why you picked up that
I
internship?
mean, storytelling was interesting to me when I was 19, and that's
Mhm.
why I moved to Los Angeles back then, well before the army,
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't really pursue it. I didn't know how to make sacrifices necessary. I didn't really work hard at it. I just, yeah, I wasn't sure. It was an interest, but I didn't look into it and pour myself into it. So I had no idea if I was really that passionate about it until I just kind of dove in. And you kind of have to do that. If it's something you're interested in, you got to just like go seek it out and take a chance. And maybe in a few months or whatever, you'll be like, yeah, this is not what I thought it was, or I'm not really into it. Then you just do something else. That's totally fine. I think people get so obsessed with, well, I don't
Mhm.
want to waste my time. I don't want to like invest time into this thing if it turns out to be nothing. But it's just like dating. It's the same thing. Like you have to do it, right? You're not just
Mhm.
gonna like know the second you meet a person. Like it doesn't work like that. Like you have to get to know them, and um, you have to like work at it. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. More often than not, it doesn't. And that's the same with life. You
Mm.
just have to treat it that way. I
Well said.
think. Yeah, it's true. Struck that thing. Just had a little too much of a tail on it.
You did hit it well.
Did, did.
I think if you
Happy with the
hit it
contact.
further at the bunker, it would have
Yeah,
been on the
I
green
should have.
instead of cutting it that much.
Stupidly.
Amateurs.
No, I didn't cut it. I
I
drew
mean,
it.
like, no, no, no. You cut the line.
Oh, I see. On my aim.
Yes, you
I
you
got you.
drew the ball, but you cut the line.
Yeah. No, I was aiming right at the pin, which is stupid. But it's fun.
All right, Nate, let's talk more about the season you're in right now. Let's dive into filmmaking. What does that process look like? How did you, I know you said you got started with the internship. How did that flourish into who you are today? And give us a basic general knowledge on that industry.
Industry. It's very challenging and very competitive. It's hard to get anything made unless you're just doing it yourself on an absolute zero budget. Then you can make anything, and you should. But on a larger scale, it's tough because movies are not cheap, and there's a lot of people that are out there trying to do the same thing, and there's a lot of good screenplays. Probably some of the greatest screenplays ever written will never get made into movies, which is a tragedy, but it's just the reality of the business. It's tough because at the end of the day, it is a business, and it comes down to most movies don't make money. 3% of them are profitable, so it's a tough one. But yeah, like currently I'm working on a D-Day 80th anniversary documentary. So sitting down with these guys that are 105 years old and like having them tell their story one last time straight to camera, which is hard to do, but I think it's important. It's important for that story to carry on. I mean, 80 years ago, they saved the world, and it's not that it's not remembered in history or anything like that, but I think firsthand accounts are super important to gather and record. And a lot of these guys didn't talk about it for 80 years because it's just not something their generation did. And the willingness for some of them now to kind of open up, I think it's imperative to capture that. So that's really what, you know, we've been trying to do with this current project. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stories out there. I'm writing some. I don't know if mine are good, but I'm writing some stories currently and hope to make into like narrative features. But yeah, the documentary is currently the project that I am working on, and you know, we're almost done, but it's tough to get made.
Yeah, you do say you love just the power of storytelling and
Yeah.
storytelling as a whole. Do you ever envision your own personal story coming to life in a movie?
Uh, I, I've been sort of pitched it a few times, and
Everyone's like, we want to write about
no,
you.
not like that. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think there would be something interesting about a story about somebody who was still serving that was also going to college and maybe even playing a sport. Like, so there, obviously that was a part of my life. But I don't think I'd want it. I think I'd want it to be loosely based on, a person, but not really like necessarily my story. I think it'd be more palatable for a larger audience, and then it's like, yeah, he's going back and forth living this like double life essentially. There is something interesting about that, so maybe one day.
Yeah. What would you say is the most interesting part about your story that that a lot of people don't know?
Um, uh, that's a good question.
Or people wouldn't recognize at first glance?
Um, I don't know. I think people just assume that I'm this highly capable, super talented person. I'm really not. I'm really not.
I just think you're Superman.
Right. See, exactly. That's so far from the truth. I think it's just that I went for it and that I don't quit. And I'm not super worried about what everybody else thinks. I think that gets in most people's way because they're just so concerned about how am I going to look to other people, and am I going to look silly, and I don't want to be embarrassed, and so they don't go for it, and then they just die with that regret, and I think that's more embarrassing. I mean, sort of. You know, what a tragedy if you were laying there and you're just like, oh, man, I wish I would have tried that thing or said those words to that person or whatever, and you didn't. Like, that sucks. And I'm not perfect at that. There's many facets of my life. There are many facets of my life that I wish I treated like I do my professional life. But I'm working on it. I'll get there, I think. Just got to keep trying.
Would you say when you were walking throughout your entire life, did you ever look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm a pretty average guy? Or would you look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm destined for more? Because there's a lot of in this culture that we live in, it's like, hey, breed this winner's mentality. And you've obviously won a lot, you've had a lot of success, but what was your mindset going through?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I always honestly pictured myself as an average guy in the sense of like capabilities, but I definitely don't think average. You know what I mean? I definitely don't, and I don't apply myself average. Like, I put a lot of work into the things that I want to succeed at and that I want to do, and I think that's what sets people apart. It's not like the God-given talents, really. Like, of course, in certain aspects, look, football, my skill could only take me so far. That's why I started long snapping. But I made it, and I got to the NFL. I never played before because I was willing to do something that other people weren't going to do, and work at it. But I think that's true with like most things. You don't have to have all this ability, and you just have to go for it, and just don't get so worried about the scoreboard. Honestly, that's where people get stuck. They just think way too much about the result. How is it going to work out? You know what I mean? Am I going to win? And I think that winner's mentality, I'm not into that. I just think like a worker's mentality. And the dreamer's mentality, you know, of going after what you want to go after. And, you know,
Mm.
if you're so focused on winning, then just do something easy, because then you'll win every time.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Whenever you go into something, I guess you answered it right there. You're not necessarily saying, I have to conquer this or I have to win.
No, I just don't want to get defeated by it. That doesn't mean that you necessarily win, but like I don't want to be psyched out by it, or not not do the best that I can for me. You know what I mean? So like I'm not gonna let that voice in my head beat me. That's the only thing I won't. I'm worried about losing to. You know what I mean? Because most of the limitations in this world are ones we just put on ourselves. They're not real. We just assume that we're not the right person for it. You know?
And how do you psych yourself out of those limitations? Those limiting self-beliefs that sometimes creep in.
They always creep in.
Yeah.
It's just not you, though. It's a voice in your head. You just have to know that. And I think that that's what people listen to that thing, they think that's them. It's just not. It's just, everybody has that voice. But you should acknowledge it, that it's there, because then you're not hiding from it. But you don't have to listen to it, and you also shouldn't do that.
Oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, oh, wow. It's so cold in here. It's so cold.
It will.
I just need to have the camera rolling all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. What is the biggest mistake you've made so far?
Today? Cutting the line, or whatever you said. Biggest mistake in my life? Oh boy, that's personal. I'm not getting into that.
You get one skip this entire podcast.
That's my skip. That's my skip.
If you could do your last 44 years all over again.
My first 44 years. I get to do the last 44 all over again.
Would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I would do a lot of things differently. I think anybody that says I have zero regrets is full of it. You know, I think we all have regrets. We wish we would have said something when we didn't, or didn't make that decision that cost us time, money, you know, years off our life, whatever. But that's just part of life. Like you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? Like we all make mistakes. We're all gonna screw up. We're all gonna disappoint other people and disappoint ourselves. But that's part of the experience. It's also not happy all the time. It's very sad. Baseline is often very sad, and that's part of life. You know, it's just the way it is. And I think if you're an ambitious person, it's a curse in a sense, because you always want to achieve more and do great things, and generally life's just not like that. There isn't, you know, most things are fairly mundane and petty, and you just got to be at peace with it at some point. You know, still working on that 44 years in, but like that is literally what life is. It is a wide array of emotions and feelings and experiences, and they're not all good.
Would you consider yourself an ambitious person? I would assume.
Yeah, I'm a very ambitious person. Absolutely. Maybe too ambitious, to a fault. You know.
What's something you're excited about that you haven't done yet, but you would like to get to do?
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to do same things that I already am doing at some level, at a higher level. You know, like, you know, storytelling and filmmaking, and I would like to experience more cultures and parts of the world that I haven't had a chance to go to firsthand. And I would like to have a family. That's a big one. You know, I do want to have a family and have children. That's probably the biggest one.
Ladies, if you're single.
I'm not just trying to get people pregnant here. Like, relax. Or am I?
The temperature is definitely dropping.
It's been dropping. It's cold. I see what you're saying. You want to read this putt for me, Caddie?
Sure. It feels flat.
I mean, I think it goes a little that way. I think the ball's above my feet. You don't think so?
That was so funny. No, I think so. That was just funny.
It doesn't go that much. It was pretty flat. I don't think that really broke. Good read. I didn't listen to you. Give me
So,
this, give me that.
what's something you wish I would ask you that most people don't ask you about?
I don't know. I have to think about these before. Something I wish you would ask me that most people don't ask me.
The expertise in this.
No,
area.
I'm just arrogant.
All right. Nate, obviously we're on the golf course. We're having a blast. Y'all, I wish we could put in all the funny moments of Nate singing at the top of his lungs.
They were dynamic. That's my point.
They were dynamic moments. Back to it. Relating to the golf course side of things and really just life, looking back at your life as a whole, how would you define success?
Well, that's a good question for sure. I don't know if I have a definition for it, but I do have maybe an analogy that relates to golf that somebody told me once, and I think it's applicable to life because they were talking purely about golf in the moment. But you know, a lot of sports, you're adjusting to the ball or the other players. You know, there's closed skills and there's open skills. And open skill is like fielding a ground ball, right? It's moving, it's coming at you, and so you have to like adjust to it. But in golf, I know the lies are different and the distances and all these things are different and the weather, but the ball is sitting still. You know what I mean? It doesn't move. It is a closed skill. You are in full control of the situation. Like there's no other players against you out there. I mean, of course you're competing on a score, but like you're playing your ball, you know, in that hole, and that's all that matters, just you. And it's a little tiny white round thing that if you don't give 100% of your attention to it, when you're, you know, lining up and taking your swing and all of that, something will go terribly wrong, and you know things will go sideways essentially. And in life, it's the same way. Like if you are not focused on the task at hand and you're not giving all your attention to that thing in that moment, I guess being present would be something you can relate that to. It's probably not going to go the way that you'd hoped, and it may not go the way that you hoped anyway. Like that's just life. But you're going to sit back and wonder if I just would have really focused in, if I would have given it my attention, if I would have made the effort, you know, sat down and had that very like important conversation without other distractions, I could live with the result maybe a little bit more than if I'm not putting all that focus and attention into it. So I think that's something about golf itself that's very interesting and very like relatable to life. You have to, you know, you set up, you line up, you take your stance and your grip, and then all your focus just has to be on that ball. You can't be thinking about other things, or it's not going to work.
Could you, thank you for sharing that, because I've actually never heard that type of analogy explained in those terms as far as open skills and closed skills.
Yeah.
And I think that's really neat because I'm personally just a logical, scientific, mathematical person that when you zoom out on a situation and you think about it on paper, it's a lot easier to digest.
Right.
And I think that goes for a little bit for everybody, but could you share one story about somewhere, any point in your life, whether it was in high school, when you were a Green Beret, football, now in filmmaking, that you would say you wish you would have honed in a little bit more and focused on the task at hand?
You know, I would say more than anything, it's not really one specific moment, but one area would just be, you know, personal relationships, whether they be romantic or friendly or work even, where I just get, you know, I struggle with trying to always focus on doing the greatest good for the greatest amount of people.
Mm.
And sometimes that is as backwards as it sounds in my head. It isn't the best way to be of service, because you may be helping a lot of people a little bit, but if you're helping one person a lot, it can be more impactful, and it could spread, and it can actually change them and help them grow. But that's something that I'm trying to do a better job of. It feels selfish sometimes to like think that way. And it feels like smaller, because I'm like, whoa, but what about all these people that are suffering, you know? But the reality is, like, you can't save the world. You know, you can't be Superman. That's not real. It's just not real. It's not reality. So there is a point, you know, that, and there are times in your life where you need to just put down everything else, and that little white golf ball becomes one person, and that is where you need to focus, you know, your attention and care. And, you know, I've certainly failed to do that more than probably any other area of my life. You know?
Well, I can honestly say as a friend that you have made a lot of impact, obviously on a mass level to a lot of people, but personally, just in our friend groups around Austin. I mean, just to take the time today to spend 5 hours with me to record this podcast that you know is not where I'd want it to be right now, and you still take that time to truly impact my life. And just spend time and me being able to learn from you and understand from your mistakes and your top 10 mountains and valleys. And I just appreciate this time with you. And yeah.
There's a lot of mistakes, and there's more to come. But if
yeah.
you gotta, you know, you take them in stride, as they say, but you don't just take them in stride. You have to learn from them and you know, appreciate them as much as they're not fun to experience.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you do grow. You
Yeah.
know, when you're in the gym and you're working out, if you don't tear your muscles, they don't grow. And that's what you're doing when you're lifting and doing these things. You're literally tearing your muscles, but that's how they grow. And so that's the same thing with life. You have to screw up. You know, you should intentionally try to make mistakes or hurt anybody else or whatever, but like, if you're really going for it, you're gonna screw up, and you're gonna do things, and you're gonna let balls drop because you got too many in the air. And that's okay. It's just like, how do you recover?
Yeah. So. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully this golf ball.
4.
Maybe even 5.
Oh, that wasn't bad at all.
Oh, that was good.
That's fairway.
I think it's gonna go in the rough, but
no, I think it might stay up.
It was a good shot.
Or bunker. It's true. Well, Nate, we are on the 18th hole. It's been a pleasure to play golf with you because you're actually a pretty good golfer.
I'm okay.
So, yeah.
I'm okay.
You're a pretty good golfer. I would have to say you probably beat me today.
You didn't play some of the holes though. You took a break on me. So
I did. For anybody who doesn't know, it is absolutely freezing out here right now.
It's chilly.
It's quite chilly. Can you give us a British accent?
All right. What do you want me to say?
Is that British or Australian?
I don't know what it is, but it worked. I'll tell you the story. I told you offline. I'm not going to tell you here, but essentially, yeah, it does the trick, I guess.
I guess so.
I don't know where it's from. It's not really any place. It's American.
It sounds Irish.
Sounds terrible.
All right. Well, we're here on the 18th hole. I want to ask you the final question of Caddie Conversations. What is your personal 18th hole?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I alluded to it before, but yeah, at some point, I do want to take this ride and continue this journey, not solo, you know. So I do want to have a family and continue to do a lot of the things that I'm doing. I think for a long time I believed it wasn't possible to really pursue all those dreams and kind of pour yourself into doing what you love and also be a good husband, father, you know, all those things. But I actually don't think that's true. I think I was wrong to think that. I think you can do both. I think there's a way to balance that. And that's also part of what I do want to do with my life. That is a professional, you know, dream or goal or whatever. I mean, it's obviously not like your job, but I guess maybe it is. I don't know. But I think that there is a way to do that, and I'm also like, but I'm grateful it took me this long because I did a lot of other things too to kind of be in that headspace and feel like it's something that that I do want. Um, but yeah, it's different. I think being a dude as well. Like we can do it a little longer and later in life, and so that's fortunate for us, you know. So I wouldn't suggest that to everybody that wants to one day do that because you know maybe you can't. I don't know. You can always adopt.
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
so.
Well, I can't wait to see your 18th hole come to fruition one day.
Yeah, boy. Same.
But thank you again for just
Yeah,
joining me out here on the golf course. Learned a lot and continuing to learn more about you and the industry of filmmaking.
of
So I
course.
appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Vanessa. Thanks.
The end. Hook 'em horns.
And hook 'em